In this session, we're going to cover some of the use cases, real life use cases that we use in our day-to-day lives using OpenClaw. And in the second part of the session, we're going to cover the thing that happened with Claude Code, basically the outage that happened for a lot of the OpenClaw users. And then we're going to leave the last 20 minutes for open Q&A so you guys can ask any questions if you have any questions. So let's get started. There's one use case in particular, which is sales, that I found a lot of success in OpenClaw and using OpenClaw recently. So we're going to cover how it goes, the skills used and the tools used in our OpenClaw, and how we do sales using AI, fully automated, no human in the loop, which makes it easier for a lot of sales reps to push in a lot of volume instead of doing the same task all over day to day and not getting any results. Yeah, first things first, just a quick reminder from last session. Basically, the AI tools that we've been using for the last 2 years are just calculators. They're just tools that you can ask questions and you get a reply. It's not autonomous, it's not an automation. It's just basically a Q&A that you ask an AI and it gives you back feedback. So AI chatbots answer questions, but a business needs someone who can schedule and remember, use your tools, and run workflows autonomously. So basically it learns and adapts along the way, and it basically does a set amount of tasks daily, on time, and it does it perfectly. So this is basically what OpenClaw is. It's using a model, which is like Claude or GPT from OpenAI, or any other model provider that you guys want. And it does a certain task perfectly using some tools and workflows. So basically for the sales skill that we did, it's combined into 2 skills. We're going to break it down into multiple skills here, which are sub-skills. So we got the scrape skill, the enrich skill, CRM, research, write, and send. Those sub-skills are fine-tuned to adapt to your workflow. For example, I took school as an example here, which is, of course, you guys know school. You're part of the MHP Pros program with Michael. And I took school as an example. So for the first skill, this is the scrape skill. It wrote a script that scrapes leads from school or communities from school. It scrapes their LinkedIn profiles, their YouTube profiles, their social media profiles, and it stores them into one file, into one format that can be used as a lead list later. And then there's the enrich skill. It uses data providers. Let's say Clay or Full Enrich to find the emails of the clients, to find the emails of the leads. And basically that adds the enrichment step in the lead list, which helps you contact the leads that you scraped in the beginning. Next up, we got the CRM skill. For example, here we use Adio as our CRM. So it helps you store the leads into one place. Basically, it's just an approach that centralizes everything. Then we got the reach skill, which I'll dive deeper into it. This is a really useful skill for you guys if you guys are looking to lead generation. The write skill, this is the copywriting. We're using examples from Lemlist, from Instantly, to write perfect cold emails for leads. And then last but not least, the send skill. So I've been using this skill personally for the past month or so. And the first 3 weeks, I've been trying to perfect the skill, trying to fine tune all the details. So I scraped over 350 leads, which manually would have taken me forever. And I've used Lee and Brave as the search tools. So I can find a lot of details on the leads, their YouTube channels, their social media and everything. And then I added my leads into the CRM, so it just organizes everything. And then I wrote the actual copies, the cold email copies, using proof and instructions from Lemlist and Instantly. And then I sent the campaigns on Lemlist. So this whole approach took me a week to perfect. But now the skill is ready. It does everything autonomously. So as you can see right here, it took me like 5 minutes just to do complete research for the lead. And right now, the email hit rate in the current campaign is 40%. So for the first phase, lead generation, it's a skill that finds and qualifies your targets. So the school scraper pulled 357 leads from every category: extract community name, member account, point information, and pricing. And then I'm using Full Enrich, and I got 40% almost as a hit rate for the emails. So 40% of the emails were valid and deliverable. And all of that using 150 credits, which is I think $10 or $5 for a 150 lead list, which is really good. And then it falls back into Lemlist for a bulk enrich API. Just go here in detail. Yeah, there you go. So after getting those leads, going to personal outreach. So basically a skill that research, writes, and sends. So for the research skill, we got a markdown file. We're using Tavily as a deep search. So basically it's an API. It's for free. You don't have to pay for the first 500 queries, I think. And it looks over the social medias of the leads. It scrapes their YouTube channels, and I'm using Apify as well. I don't know if you guys heard of Apify. It acts like a dashboard that you can pick actors from, and each actor does a certain job. So for example, if I'm looking to find YouTube videos and transcripts of the leads. I would use the YouTube actor, and I would link it to OpenClaw, and it would transcribe the YouTube videos and like scrape their YouTube channel. It's easy to go. You can ask your assistant to do that. That's exactly what I did. I asked it to use an Apify actor and just asked me to give it the key to the Apify account. That's it. It just uses the actors on its own autonomously. So yeah, for the cold email copies, I looked over the Instantly GPT, which is available in ChatGPT for free. We extracted the system prompt and we fed it over to OpenClaw. So it knows all the information that Instantly uses for their own cold copies. And same thing as Lemlist. There are multiple frameworks that we used. Lemlist provides them for free as well on their YouTube channel. And you can transcribe the YouTube channel itself, like the YouTube videos themselves, and feed it to your OpenClaw. You can do the same thing for multiple use cases. It doesn't have to be for school. I'll just use school as an example. So if you're looking to find a lead in real estate or in any other business, you can adapt the same workflow and the same skill for any business in mind. So let's say, for example, you're looking to find leads that would be available for you to work with on a software company or real estate or whatever. You can just ask your assistant to do the research for you, and it would find multiple websites to scrape from. So if we're looking to find people who are working on courses, we would go over to Coursera, Udemy, School. If we're looking to find people who are doing software development, we'd go to LinkedIn, and yeah, all the good stuff. So this is pretty much it. This is the tools I used. Adio is the CRM. Lemlist is the actual engine for the campaign. Full Enrich is a platform. It gives you access to a key that you can use to find emails for leads. Clay as well, you can use that instead of Full Enrich, but Clay is more for data enrichment. Like you can find other information about a lead or a client. Tably is for web search. Basically, what it does the search for you. So instead of going to Google and like typing up a lead name, let's say for example Alex Hormozy, some random guy on the internet, it does that for you. It looks up all the information Alex Hormozy, and then it uses n8n to create the whole workflow. And you can set it up as a cron job. So you can just ask your assistant to go, and you can go, hey, I want you every day at 10 a.m. to look over 10 leads, do the research on them, and give me back feedback. So you save all the leads into one file. You add the file to Full Enrich to find the emails. You add the emails to your CRM, and then that's the lead generation phase. For the outreach phase, you add the leads to Tably. It does YouTube searching and like social media searching with briefing. And then the briefing goes into the cold email copy, and then the copy goes into Lemlist. I know it sounds complicated because it's the first time you guys seeing this, but it's pretty simple. We did all the hard work. So the skill is now ready, and this could be a very good change in sales. So all the sales reps can use this instead of doing all the work manually. We can even set it up, just a quick side note here. We can even set it up for cold calls, I think. It's possible, but it's not yet in practice, but this is very possible in cold calls. So you can set up a phone number for your OpenClaw assistant, and it does all the cold calls itself.
Hey, is the Lemlist, is that a replacement for Instantly AI?
Yeah, Lemlist is like Instantly. We just
It
use
is.
Lemlist, but yeah, they're pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, I think the
Okay.
main reason you would use Lemlist instead of Instantly AI would be because it already has multi-channel integration, meaning it doesn't only send email, you can send LinkedIn messages, you can send SMS, WhatsApp messages from the same provider.
Oh, very cool. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I was wondering how to do that. So this might be the solution. I really like how you put this together. And then I was going to ask as well on the last one, N8N, is that, do we still have to use that as opposed to Zapier?
Well, n8n is good replacement for Zapier. I think Ramis can explain more in detail what's the difference between n8n and Zapier.
Yeah.
Okay.
N8N is more customizable and it's open source, meaning you don't have to pay anything for N8N. You could even ask your OpenClaw agent on the same server that you're hosting OpenClaw on to set up N8N, and then it would be practically free to use. Since you're already paying the server for OpenClaw, you don't have to spin up another server, opposed to Zapier, which is, I believe, charges you per each like run, which the more workflows that you add, it gets more and more expensive.
I see. Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a skill, I'm not sure if you've seen it, that I think I'll find it and send it over in the Zoom chat. that we added called N8N as code, which is basically something that allows your OpenClaw agent to build the N8N workflows for you, so you don't even have to open N8N yourself. So it can build the N8N workflows, which are exactly similar to the API automations, and then it can run them and test them, etc.
Yeah, that'd be beautiful because I didn't want to have to deal with setting up N8N.
Yeah.
So that'd be great. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, so any more questions before I move on, guys? I've been ranting for the past 10 minutes. I don't want to keep moving on if you guys have any questions. All right, perfect. So quick deep dive into the research skill in particular. I used to use Gemini for research. I used to give out the details to Gemini about the lead, their name, their business, etc. And it would give me a full report about the lead himself. I was using the Show Me framework, which basically adds a personalization layer to the cold emails. For example, instead of the lead receiving a email that's 200 words full of AI slop and like links all over the place, this is a good layer to break the ice between you and the lead and gets them to actually read the email, the cold email, or if you were to write if you were to write a script for a cold call, that would work as well. So the way it goes is you would enter a lead name, the company, the YouTube URL if you found one in school or a similar platform, and the context, basically what you're trying to look for. And the process is it would go to Tably, does a search in the background, does background search, news, interviews, scrapes the social media, and it generates hooks like icebreakers, which you can use, you can pick from, and then you can use those in the cold copy itself. So you can even give it like its own system prompt, so you can tell it what to say, what not to say. So basically you can remove all the filler words, all the words that you most probably find in spam emails or like typical cold emails, and actually instruct it to use the words they wanted to use. So we've been seeing good results with this so far. As I said, this has been in usage for a week now, and the first 3 weeks we've been only doing the research and trying to fine tune the workflow itself. All right, for the deep dive on the cold email skill, basically it's inspired by Lemlist and Instantly. The frameworks that they use, the tone, the number of words even, everything is considered here. So we're trying to go for a short, punchy, personalized copy instead of a long copy. So 75 words max, for example, no generic openers. We're trying to get into details, basically, instead of sending a vague email on the business itself, we're trying to fine tune the value proposition and the hook. So the lead reading the email would actually feel like the email is personalized instead of it's a generic email. Obviously, without mentioning, all cold emails would sound like cold emails regardless, but this increases the open rate and the reply rate like a lot. So this is pretty good. And same thing for the CTA. Instead of a generic CTA, you can change the CTA into something that you would actually say. And yeah, you can even mention the sequences that you use. So for example, Eric, you mentioned instantly. Same thing with Lemlist. You can mention if you want to integrate other channels like LinkedIn or WhatsApp. If you want to send a message to a DM on LinkedIn or WhatsApp, you can add that to the sequence itself, and your OpenClaw assistant would do everything.
Yeah, I did thank you for bringing that up. I did definitely want to do LinkedIn as well. So does that how does it account for, I think LinkedIn starts blocking you after 2025 cold outreaches a day, and particularly they have all their ratios of how many times someone blocks you on there. So then they start looking at you and a bunch of other rules around that. So is Lemlist guiding you on how to do that? Do we have to know on our end exactly what rules to abide by in order to not get blacklisted by LinkedIn? Or do you guys know how that works exactly?
Lemlist has been pushing out updates about this recently, showcasing what not to do and what to do when you use LinkedIn as part of your sequence. But the rule of thumb is don't spam LinkedIn profile views. If you spam LinkedIn profile views and messages every single day, they would definitely shadow ban you. That's what the term is called, shadow banning. And I think Rams, can you elaborate more on this?
Oh yeah. So the good point about Lemlist is it handles most of the, let's say, the workarounds that you'd have to manually do for working with LinkedIn for cold outreach in general. So stuff like the limit that you just said, which is accurate, the
Hmm.
25 messages a day, they account for it on their own. So let's say you created a campaign with 200 people. When you launch a campaign, when someone gets to the step in your sequence where you'd have to send them a LinkedIn message, instead of bombarding all of the 200 people at once, they like schedule them throughout the day. You send one person now, and then it wait like 40 minutes, like a random amount, and then send another message, and then try to not hit the same limit every day. So at first they don't hit the 25 messages limit, and then they start to hitting like random amounts. Like today they
I
send
see.
23, tomorrow they send 20. So a lot of the stuff that you have to account for manually, Lemlist takes care of. And so far, I've been using Lemlist, I think, for a year now, and we did on multiple accounts and we didn't have any issues with any, let's say, bans or stuff or shadow bans or stuff like that. Same thing for the
Okay.
email, which is like about which they give you something for free, which is called like Limworm. They do the same for your emails if you're using them as like the email provider. They try to balance out between multiple emails and they show you like the health metrics of your emails so you don't land in people's spam.
Thank you for that too. Yeah, I was going to ask how many emails you can create, or if Lemlist recommends how many emails to create
Yeah.
as you're setting it up. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe later on during the Q&A part, you can show one of our Limlist campaigns and he can show you a walk you around the platform.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Thank you guys.
Yeah. The main reason we picked again Lemlist instead of Instantly, which is like the API, because you can just take the API key, give it to your agent, and it has access to your campaign data. If you wanted to give you summaries, it can add context to campaigns. It can use into enrich and that kind of stuff.
No, this sounds a lot easier actually, because I was using Instantly and another software, and it was taking too much time to warm up the leads and do everything. So it sounds
Yeah.
like you guys might have a little bit more of a smooth line process with Lemlist here that I'd be interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah, as Ramos said, the integration of Lemlist is easy. So we're using the API docs that Lemlist provide, and we're feeding the assistant the APIs and the documentation itself. So it knows what to use and what not to use. So it can notify you basically if you get a reply by a lead. It can create the campaign itself. It can add leads or modify leads. It can even enrich the leads on your behalf. So basically, you just have to text your assistant and it does all the heavy lifting for you. So as you can see right here, get campaigns, post campaigns. And yeah, the variables are what you set based on the research you find on your leads. So the first name, last name, and the emails are like all the necessary information. But then you can find the community name, the member count, the completion rate, if they have a course or not, calculated LTV, etc. So how it all connects, this is a quick review of what the last week's call. I remember Michael sharing how the skills, documents, and folders are layered in your VPS and your OpenClaw assistance folders. As I mentioned earlier, we begin with a certain platform, in this example, school, and then it feeds all the information back to OpenClaw, scrapes information from school, and then you do the enrichment, and then back to OpenClaw, and then it pushes the campaigns to Lemlist, which makes it a whole lot easier. All right, just to make sure, yeah, this is basically the skills folder that Michael showed you last week, and we have a cold email skill, which I mentioned that we took inspiration from Lemlist and Instantly, with reference, frameworks, examples, the research skill, the outbound sales skill, and all the configurations if you have API keys or tokens that you need to store. And the memory is a good part. You always want to make sure if you're working with your assistant on building a framework like we did right here, after every session, make sure it saves into memory, and then it appends that session into the entire skill. All right, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Just a quick summary of what we discussed here. Researching the lead is basically all these skills. You do the web search, you scrape the social media, you generate the hook from the research you made, from the personal information, if they mentioned any valuable information in the podcast and the YouTube videos, and then you do a strategic briefing and you save all the information to one Google Docs file or Markdown file. And then you write the email itself. So based on the information you have in your file, you ask your assistant to extract hooks, select the framework, and then you generate the copy. And in the last step, I actually advise you in the beginning, like the first few tries, the first few campaigns, to validate the copies instead. Don't let your assistant validate them for you. So you just want to make sure that all the code copies look perfect and there are no errors or issues in the copies themselves. And then they're all ready to send. And for the CRM integration, it's optional, but it's always recommended to keep track of the leads and everything. So you map the fields and check for duplicates, create update records, and then add to your list. And the full pipeline goes like this. So these are every single node you see right here, the scrape, enrich, CRM, research, write, and send. Those are called subskills. And everything, all those 6 subskills are combined to one major skill, which is the outreach, cold email outreach skill. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today's session.
All right. If you don't have any questions about the sales and marketing part, I can get started on giving you guys more info about what's been happening recently with Anthropic and the Claude Max subscriptions and everything. Assuming you guys saw the message that we sent in our beta users group that Michael sent earlier, I'll follow up with more details now and answer any questions that you might have. Let me just share my screen. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so around last week, Claude Code just fully shut down. They sent everyone an email that they fully shut down with the use of your Claude Pro and Claude Max subscriptions inside OpenClaw or any alternative to OpenClaw. And it was very short notice, and the community reacted very negatively around it. And seems the future for Claude and Anthropic in general is they want to more push out their closed source product and sell API to enterprises. As you've probably seen with their recent model that they released Mythos, they aren't even selling it to the public. Their focus now is more of enterprise clients, and they won't be supporting stuff like this. We were trying different options and seeing what's the best option for us and for you guys moving forward. Yeah, as you see in the policy change and everything. So there are multiple options that you can do from here if you're currently using OpenClaw via Claude Max or Pro subscriptions. The first one, which is the easiest one, is basically cancel your subscription and start using Claude via Claude Opus or Claude Sonnet via the API portal. It's a different account. You might have to change that up. You can see the pricing from here. It's basically a pay-as-you-go pricing, charging via tokens, so how much tokens you consume. So Opus consumes, I believe, around double what Sonnet consumes. Keep in mind that Opus uses more tokens because it reasons and thinks a lot. So it will start like charging you pay as you go, and you set it up via platform.claude.com. You create a new account from there. You get to the API key and set it up. It's very straightforward. Even your agent, if you still have like your agent alone, can set it up for you. That's the first option, the easiest one, but still not the most efficient one. The second option, still, if you want to keep using Sonnet or Opus instead of another model, is using AWS via Kiro. Little background here over on Kiro. It's a coding tool similar to like Claude Code that is made by AWS, which is Amazon. A little context here, as you can see here, AWS. Amazon owns, let me double check how much. Amazon shares Anthropic. Amazon owns around, I think it's probably the biggest shareholder right now. Let me double check. They did huge investments in Anthropic, and I believe they own like around 30% to 20% of Anthropic itself. So they have access to all of the Anthropic frontier models for very cheap. So we found a workaround to keep using Opus and Sonnet via subscription, using Kiro subscription this time, which is much cheaper than the Claude Max subscription. They have the two main subscriptions that you would look for, either the Pro Plus and the Kiro Power, and they charged via credits. One credit, as you can see in their FAQ in here, one credit is around like one task, let's say, like a simple task, like for example, doing a week summary of what's happening in your calendar, something like this. That's like a simple task. And then a complex task consumes around like 2 to 3 credits. Something that requires more thinking power and more reasoning. Something like, as showed, like drafting like a new email campaign or setting up a new technology or setting up a new dashboard for you. Each month you get around, on the $40 plan, 2,000 credits, and on the $200 plan you get 10,000 credits. And the usage is much more generous than it was on Claude Max. You wouldn't run into any session limits or usage limits. It's very hard to run through this subscription. I think what we did recently is we migrated into one $200 subscription between 3 people on our team, just because it's very hard to run out of usage when you're using Kiro. The only downside is that it's much harder to set up than it was on Claude Code, because you have to install Kiro CLI on your VPS, and then you have to route that using a custom provider back to your OpenClaw for it to work. So it's not as straightforward as it's done through Claude Code. But if you already did your OpenClaw setup with us, just shoot us a message and we'll migrate it for you if you wanted to use AWS via Kiro. The third option is move to Codex. If you're not using Codex, it's very easy to migrate. The only downside with Codex is the personality of OpenAI models in Codex is like too corporate, and it's not as, how do you explain it? It's not as agentic as Opus or Sonnet, where It has an aggressive personality and doesn't stop at the first thing and looks for workaround. But the founder of OpenClaw tweeted about this recently, which I'm trying right now, is if your OpenClaw is too boring, and he's personally, I believe, using GPT 5.4, you can give this prompt to your OpenClaw, which will prompt it to review its sol.md file. Sol.md is basically everything that holds explains to your OpenClaw who it is, what's the context, what it should do, what shouldn't do, a very big amount of rule set, and tones its personality. So this is a prompt that he gave to his OpenClaw agent. So his GPT agent becomes less like a corporate and more like Opus. And there is a full-on article about the sol.md file in here. So if you move over to GPT or you're currently moving over to GPT, you might want to look into playing around with the sol.md file just so your GPT becomes more agentic and has that more like chatty feel. Another options that we tried over the last week was, I believe we tested a lot of the open source models, which brings me to my other point. I would recommend for everyone in here to either have an OLAMA account or an OpenRouter account, which will give you access to all of the free models that keep dropping. Some of the Chinese models like Minimax, like Alibaba Quinn. I think there is another one. Yeah, GLM is another one. Or any of the open source model developed by the US labs like Gemma 4, which recently dropped via Google. The other one is, I believe, GPT-OSS is another one. So you get access to all of the open source models. If you're using OLAMA, you can spare it with easily with your OpenClaw, and it's only, I believe, a $20 to $30 subscription. Let me just double check. I'll check from here. Billing. Yeah, you get access. It's a $20 a month subscription for OLAMA, or this other option is OpenRouter, which gives you access to all of the free models. For example, the one that we're seeing now, Minimax, you get access for instead of for free, you get access for very cheap in here. You do get access to a lot of free models, but in OpenRouter, what you get access to is every single model in existence with just like one API key. So stuff like Opus, GPT-5, Gemini 3.1. You get access to those and you get access to the free models, and it's a pay-per-use. And the cool part about it is if you create an OpenRouter account and just put $10, I think, worth of like top-up credits, you get access to all of the free models. If I just search free in here. So we have Google Gem as well, NVIDIA models, it's called Dimitron, Minimax, and there's one that you can set, which is free model router, which if you put that as your primary model, OpenRouter will just route you to whichever model is free this week or which is the best free model at the moment. So even if you're using something like GPT or Opus, I would still recommend using OpenRouter or OLAMA just so you have a backup model. So something like this happens, you can do that. But you can also, when you're using subagents, the cool part about OpenClaw is you can delegate to subagents that use different models completely. For example, if you're trying to save up on tokens and the tasks are very simple, you can immediately tell your OpenClaw to delegate it to subagent that would use a free model or a very cheap model, so you save up on your tokens. Does anyone have a question around this? All right. One other part that I think Michael mentioned as well is that we're focusing now on two things. Everyone, this is for people that already hosted their OpenClaws with us, is making sure that we give you guys access to your terminals in a very secure way. And also, we're working on model provisioning. We give you access to Opus and all of the models included in your subscription and the expensive model at a very reduced cost than what Anthropic sells it from via partner and bulk discounts that we're working on. It's what happened recently with Anthropic keeps reminding us that it's very important that we keep using open source technology instead of closed source as much as we can, because if this happened and we're using the whole setup around Claude Code or whatever they're pushing recently, I think it's like Claude Remote and Claude Cowork, you would lose all of your workflows or like business workflows that you did overnight if they do something with that short notice if you're using cloud source. But the good part about using open source and OpenClaw in general is if Anthropic stop like collaborating, you can just switch over your API key to another provider and nothing is lost. All right, so That's all I had to share about the news related to Anthropic. If anyone has any questions related to what I shared or what Amin shared or anything else in general that we can help you guys with in the next 20 minutes.
I was going to ask about your experience and your feedback so far with OpenClaw. I think I set it up with you like 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah, it's been good. I did set up one or two automations, which it seems to be working for, but I haven't unleashed even 10% of what I wanted to do with it yet. So I think the real big test for me would be something like this, the LinkedIn and or email outreach. That was ultimately, I was trying to go there with it. And that would be I would say my number one use case right now, setting up what you guys presented here today.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's
mhm.
just fine tune the skill and we can share it over in the chat, I think, or we can send it over in the WhatsApp group, I think, Ramis.
Yeah, and then we'll send over in the group then a booking link if you wanted to book a call and get any more help having this set up to your OpenClaw or to your business in general.
That'd be
What's the
great.
background here, Eric? What any use case in mind that you need it for?
Yeah, just outreach for the mobile home park stuff. And I have a roofing business
Mhm.
as well. So I would do it for both. But ultimately, let's just take roofing, for example. I want to be reaching out to property managers and specific set of real estate agents. I have a lot of the contact information already, but I would be interested to see what, OpenClaw and these tools could pull as far as new leads. I would want to build a CRM around that and then start cold outreach through both LinkedIn and email.
Yeah, sure. I think this is a very good use case for both Lemlist and OpenClaw right here. I've tried it for a lot of use cases. Real estate wasn't one that I tried it with personally. I know Michael was setting up a lot of stuff related to real estate. Like I think he showed it last week, like the lenders outreach. But I would say that in terms of infrastructure wide and getting as much replies as you want, like positive replies that you want, setting up the proper follow-ups, this is the right infrastructure that you want to set. Something with the tools that we share today, like Lemlist and Adio CRM, because all of them are very easy to use, very easy to set up, but also one of the reasons that we picked Ario and Lemlist and all of those tools was because of the API access and the agents access, because you don't want something only easy to use and where you can read your campaign data and work on your campaign data, but you want your OpenClaw or whatever agent that you're using to be able to read those and take action on those as well.
I think that sums it up perfectly. So yeah, we can set up the whole workflow for you, Eric. We can just book a call. It's pretty straightforward, and you can test it out. Once we figure out the whole model thing, once we have something up and running, just quick follow up on what Rama said regarding Kiro and the 2,000 free credits. I tried the $40 subscription for the month, and I've been using it for like heavy complex tasks every day. And I think it consumed around 3 or 4 credits per request if it's like a complex request, just like as Ram said. And I let's assume that you use like 10 requests a day to complex tasks. That's 30 credits a day. That's 900 credits a month. So you're not even going to reach half your credits. So it's pretty good. The usage is great. And once we have something figured out, we can get it up and running for you guys.
Are you guys familiar with Apollo at all? Apollo IO?
Yeah, the leads generation platform.
Yeah, how do you think about that? I'm just thinking as far as for my contact list and lead gen to plug this
Yeah.
into would that be a good fit or is there a better way to set that up to try to get those initial leads?
Well, it's the same thing. I think we had a discussion about this with like 3 months ago, for like 4 months ago, the exact same question. My answer for Apollo specifically is Apollo is like a platform where everyone has access to the same leads. The same email list that you would be sending out to, there's like at least 100, 200 agencies sending out to the same contact. So those people are constantly bombarded with emails, so they have a much lower like reply rate and open rates in general. I would recommend something like, let's say, you wanted to reach out to contractors, you said, and agents in general, looking for websites that they would like post like their ads and something like this, where people like this exist, and then asking your OpenClaw to basically scrape the list and put it in a CSV for you. So you'll have a fresh email list that no one is contacting, and you have a much higher reply rate, and you would be able to get, instead of like business emails, you'd be able to get like personal emails that are connected to people's phones directly, so they get the notification on their phone, and you have a much higher open rate. Like for example, one use case for us is we have something where we work with school community owners or like course owners in general. That's where we built like a custom scraper on top of school.com to pull the contacts of those people.
I see. I like that. That's a good idea. Now, are there any scraping tools that you gentlemen are aware of for either LinkedIn and or Facebook that actually work?
I would heavily recommend just giving your agent access to Apify, and it will solve 50%, almost 90% of the websites that you're trying to scrape. Let me share my screen in here.
Oh,
I'll show you. Can you see my screen?
yes, sir.
All right. Yeah. Here there is Apify where you can just set up one API key and get access to scrape a lot of things. For example, there's a Google Maps scraper, there's a Reddit scraper, Twitter scraper, LinkedIn scrapers, like what you're looking for, LinkedIn company scraper, Zillow data scraper. And you get access to, I think, hundreds of thousands of scrapers like this that you can use.
Very cool.
So, for example, one funny one that you can have access to, I always have issues spelling Apollo. See, yeah. Instead of having subscription Apollo, you'd have one subscription, and if it costs around like $30 a month, and then you can use an Apollo scraper inside of Apify, and it will charge you $1 for 1,000 emails it finds you.
I see. Wow. Okay, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, yeah. So again, apify.com. Let me send the link in the Zoom meeting. You just give the API key to your agent and immediately have access to scraping a lot of things. You'll have more context lists than you'd
I'm sorry, did
know
you
what
say
to.
that it had Zillow? Did you have Zillow on there on
Yeah,
Apify? Because that would be great. I was paying some VAs to pull Zillow content for the highest rated realtors or real estate agents on Zillow that were selling over $1 million properties or over. I had certain criteria of what kind of real estate agent to look for. If it's able to pull selective real estate agents off Zillow, that would be huge.
yeah. Let me show you Zillow. I think I ran out of limits, but I'll just raise my limits for now. Store on this. Let's see. This one is, let me see, Zillow. I have this one in here. Or I'll go to Apify store and search Zillow. There's multiple, we call them actors or scrapers. Yeah, here's one. Zillow detail scraper, Zillow zip code search scraper. So for example, let me search those two zip codes. Yeah, I think that. All right. I think that sums up everything that we wanted to share in today's call. If you have any use case that we can help with or anything that you want us to share on next week's call, feel free to share it on school or DM one of us, and we'll either share it privately or bring it to the next week call.